Good morning. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of Luca Nation. You guys know that before Cage, kicks back a 2 liter soda, the energy isn't flowing, but this is going to be a different type of episode. And I'll tell you why. We're recording this in the morning, and most of the times, we're recording mid or later in the day, but we have a dear, dear friend. And truthfully, now I could call this man one of my mentors in the hobby. He's someone who's incredibly kind, incredibly patient. He's someone who's just very considerate and able to share a ton of information because he's been in the hobby for 20 years. And we've had him on before, and his name is Eric Myers. I have no doubt that you guys know him. Haole Hustle. I practiced that all night just so I could pronounce it properly now. But Eric just went through some big stuff. He moved to South Korea with the family for a few years. He's working with PWCC. He's brokering 6, 7, maybe even soon 8-figure deals in the hobby. And we're going to get a scoop on a lot of things that are going on in the hobby the last 6 months and what he sees for the future. And we'll talk a little bit about the national as well. I'm excited because we get to bring Eric back on, and he's a wealth of knowledge. So, Eric, I appreciate you taking the time. I hope the move to South Korea went well. I know moving is always has its challenges, but it also has new opportunities and new experiences. So I'm curious to hear how's everything been? How's the move to South Korea?
It was definitely an endeavor. It was definitely something new. Living in Hawaii, going from Texas to Hawaii was a daunting task to say the least, but definitely picking up everything and going to an entirely different continent to South Korea was had its litany of obstacles, but yet nevertheless in here, I think the most difficult thing now is being in quarantine for 2 weeks. I'm roughly day 9 into the quarantine, so I've got a few more days left. I can leave the house a little bit, or the barracks in which I reside for the next few days. But it's been interesting. It's been interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing the collectors and the collectible industry. More than just sports, non-sports, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, Magic the Gathering, just even F1. I mean, that's considered a sport though. Just seeing how the market evolves, moves, and fluctuates in other countries and other continents and other cultures, how they embrace it. And I can't wait to go see some of the baseball games here in South Korea as well.
Korean Baseball League got me through a lot of COVID in the beginning of there. It wasn't exactly the same, but yeah, man, I watched Korean baseball games when there was no American baseball. I mean, you had to cut up at like 2 a.m. Which, by the way, Andrew starts us off. It's a morning episode. What time is it where you are?
I'm in your future. It is 10:30 tomorrow.
Well, thank you. It's Marty McFly. Marty McFly here for an episode, folks. I love it.
Can you tell me, does LeBron win another game in this playoffs?
I mean, do you think it's
Well, you're in the future.
I don't think so.
It's tomorrow. He already has the headlines. LeBron cannot do it himself.
No, to be completely honest, Andrew, he's already walked off the court with a loss, and he walked off 5 minutes early. So.
Oh, I like the way this is starting out.
He did. He definitely did. He did. But Spike Lee left. Did you see Spike Lee left last night early too? And then he came back. Because Nick started scoring in the fourth quarter, and then he came back on the court. Yeah, I was like, oh, you don't want to miss that comeback. They're down by 11 now. You never know with a minute left.
You don't want to miss the failed comeback. So what do you think about that? What do you think about Trae Young stepping up and handing the Knicks the loss? I really was thinking the Knicks were going to win. They didn't pull it off. Kudos to Trae Young. I mean, I think I wasn't seeing it. I'm going to admit it. I was wrong. I think that's a shocker. I'm looking forward to this. I do think, and I called it, I'm not saying called because it hadn't happened yet. My call was back in March. I picked Nets in 5. Technically, I picked Nets in 3, but Vegas wouldn't give me Nets in 3. I thought it was going to be that.
So here's the thing, right? So I would shy away from gunfire, right? I when the fire starts to burn, I run away. This is the kind of guy I am. But I know that you two have had your metal tested, right? You've had your metal tested, right? You're a soldier, and Andrew has had his iron sharpened by the best, trained under the great Gary V. Friend V. He's worked in the Bitcoin market. He's worked a crypto desk on Wall Street. I mean, this guy, I worked on Wall Street too. I had a hot dog stand. So, but here's the fun thing, right? Some people, when the lights are bright, they shine brighter themselves. And some people, when the lights are bright, they go run and hide like a groundhog seeing a shadow. And that was Julius Randle. Julius Randle's the groundhog now, in my opinion. And that was the huge thing in this, because if it's not him, all year he's carried that team on his back. And, the other people have been role players, you name it. And, I love Tibbs, and he had to do what he had to do, right? But, after game one of that, to say, all right, you know what, I got to insert Derrick Rose, who's 187 years old and has always been like a sixth man. He's going to be the offense. He's going to be the spark plug. He's going to be the starter. And just, look, for moments, for flashes, IQ showed up and did something. Derrick Rose showed up and did something. But what the Knicks showed you was, one, Julius Randle's a groundhog, and two, what Andrew talks about year over year now, because we did the bubble and we did this, team play is what will get you through the playoffs. Playing like a team, having different role players play their role. Everyone will talk about how great Trae Young was and all the back and forth, but talk about the series that Clint Capella had. You know what I mean? Double machine. I think he had 14, 15 last night. And even when he wasn't getting blocks, talk about just manning the paint and blocking shots, altering shots, you name it. The Knicks didn't have anybody with a presence like that in the paint, and it's a huge difference. So I give Trae Young a lot of credit. It's great to see. I will give a personal real world card analysis here. In the beginning of the season, I had purchased a whole bunch of Trae Young silver prisms. And I bought them probably, less than $1,000 each. I had probably 6, 7, 8 of them, and I sold the vast majority of them in the run up. I didn't get the near $4,000 that they were up to at their highest. That works. I didn't get the near, but I was getting high 2s, low 3s. I left some meat on the bone for people. I sold one last night. It literally ended like as he was killing it, as he was, doing his thing. It literally ended while he's advancing, and while Philly doesn't look that great, and people might have an idea in their brain that, that they might even advance to the Eastern Conference Finals, and it sold for $1,750. So you tell me what that means. Obviously, the market's gone down, but literally the card sold for less than 50% of what it was selling for before the season. And he had a good season, not the greatest, but a good statistical season. But now he has led his team into the playoffs and has become a good playoff player and won a playoff series. And it doesn't matter. The card is worth less than half of what it was at its peak before the season even started. It's a little card lesson there.
Yeah, there's a lot to digest with that, right? I'm finding that the run up right now for the league, and again, it's year 2 with the parabolic run up, and then the ebbs and flows where we're at right now with this hyper market. You can call it whether it's hyper up or hyper down, hyper market. I'm finding right now, probably before mid-season is it seems to be the peak from what we're seeing, what we're actually witnessing. What happens is we all kind of formulate who we perceive is going to be the top 4, and then we run up and grab those players, and then from that moment it's just a taper off. Even if the Nets win in the finals, or the Lakers, or whoever, I don't foresee there being a price spike. I feel like the price spike has already happened. We run up mid-season, and I think, let's get on a deeper psychological aspect, I look at it as what's happening is, on a psychological aspect, is the super teams are killing the organic growth of these organically orchestrated teams, because you're missing the opportunities of the Denver Nuggets. You're missing the Philadelphia 76ers. You're missing these organic teams, even if the Knicks, if they could pull it together, right? Had they been able to pull it together, you're missing these teams growing organically. So we all subconsciously, the collectors, are going, we pretty much already knew who was going to be in it. We run up and buy their cards mid-season, and then we kind of sell them and flip them, and from the rest it just kind of flips. So it kills. I honestly wish that the commissioner would only allow one Supermax player per team, and then another player couldn't make within 10 million of that player, so we could get more parity. Because I'm afraid, not only that, but with these super teams, and then you have multiple Supermax players per team, I see, unless something is changed, I don't see any of these Supermax players in a full 82-game season. I don't see them playing more than 65 games a season anymore. I see them playing 70%, 75% of the season, missing a quarter or more in the name of rest, right? And they're not going to, you look at the Nets. Together they played 7 games.
I was just going to say, 100% right. I mean, you've already seen it this year. Yep.
I don't see it changing. I honestly don't see it changing. That I think, look at all the time that was taken off for LeBron, for AD, because they know that they only have to be in the top 5 or 6 in the playoffs. They can just win enough to do that. They're going to take a lot of time off, which kills our interest as far as fans, viewers, collectors, whatever you want to say. That kills our interest. And it also, by having Supermax teams, kills the organic growth of the Nuggets or the 76ers, these other good teams, or the Bucks.
What do you guys make of that quote you saw where one GM, an anonymous GM, so you take it with a grain of salt. He said, this new wave of power that the players have had, that's completely it's more apologize. There's more power than the players have ever had, and it's been the worst thing that's ever happened for the league. Do you believe that there's some truth? Have you seen that quote at all?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it. It just is what it is. I mean, at the end of the day, whether you agree with it or don't agree with it, they have more power. The league viewership's down. They get to pick and choose what they want to do. And it is what it is, whether you like the outcome or don't like the outcome. Unfortunately, it is what it is, because they can choose to show up to work. I mean, you see some of these players show up, they look stoned as heck, man. They look out of it. They do, and I get it. I understand their
They
perspective.
used to drink and smoke during the halftime in the '80s, though. Cage knows that all too well. He was in
I
the
was
locker
smoking
room
and
for those
drinking.
games.
That's it.
Yeah.
I was smoking and drinking on my
supplying.
couch. I was watching the games and smoking and drinking on my couch at halftime. No, but I'll give you an evidence-based approach. I mean, it is Cage lawyer here, right? So the one league that does have the most control over their players, right? So the NBA obviously has the players are dictating, they're forcing trades, you name it. Now you can even see in the NFL, people are holding out, forcing trades. It's happened over the last couple of years. You got Julio Jones, who knows what team he's going to be on. He's got 3 years left on his contract, right? You got Aaron Rodgers saying, let's figure this out. But even go to the other end of the spectrum, baseball, right? Baseball is the league where the teams have the most control over their players. They can even manipulate the length of time they have control of their players, but keeping them in the minors and not calling up an otherwise qualified player to the majors until July, until there's a service time requirement, you name it. So to that GM, that unnamed source GM who says the players have too much control now, I would say, all right, well, look at the league where the ownership and the team has as much control over the players. And look at the product they're putting out. Like, that's the least watched sport now. You know what I mean? So it can't be killing it, right? At least I don't think it can be. It can't be killing it because, baseball, no one's watching. At least people are watching basketball. But who knows? We'll see if that changes, Eric, to your point.
Yeah, and it's true. I think a lot of people don't watch baseball, and I'm a huge baseball fan. Love it. I don't like watching it because you're right, there are changes that they put in. I don't feel like they know what they're doing. Plus, it's a slow game to watch. It is. It's a slow game to watch. It's not football. It's not basketball. The pace is definitely drastically different. And I think in today's modern society, in the what have you done for me, like in the last 30 seconds world that we live in, I think that's the byproduct of baseball's viewership. I'm okay with basketball. I got a discussion the other day with people talking about Rodman used to, show up, go party till 4 a.m, show up and play. So he was drinking out, partying all the time. I said, yeah, but the difference is he would show up and play.
Yeah.
That's the difference. You got people taking off games for their birthday or for whatever, just missing a whole bunch of time. And it's heartbreaking because I can't miss a quarter of my time. I can't call into work 1 week a month, and there's something to be said for just showing up. And I like Barkley's assessment of Anthony Davis as much as I don't wish injury upon anybody by any means, but they call him Anthony Street Clothes?
He's always
Street
Clothes.
Clothes.
Yep. That's what they call him, Street Clothes. He got this new.
So I'm curious, Eric. Last year they said NBA Modern Market drives all the other cards. It's the bellwether market. But I've seen something different. I want to hear what you have to say because you grew up on vintage. Are these high-end sales? Are these vintage cards? Is that 1914 Babe Ruth, that beautiful, beautiful card that just sold? Are those the cards that drive the market now? Is it no longer modern NBA?
I like Cage's expression on that. I love his expression.
Well, because we spent the whole episode yesterday him saying how disgusting he thought that card was. And I said, well, the Mona Lisa, a lot of people don't think it's beauty, but this card could potentially be considered the Mona Lisa of sports cards. So
I've slept on it, and I've decided that I'm going to buy the 1914 Babe Ruth. I've slept on it, and I have now come back with a better decision.
Yeah,
the blue one.
I prefer the blue myself. I do. They're both, and honestly, this is the thing. So this is multifaceted. There's 2 aspects of this. I think it's very important to discuss, especially the second one. The first one is beauty, obviously, is not a holder. To me, I get that it's optically not as beautiful as the 1955 sets, right? I get that. I totally understand that. Or the 33 Gaudi, totally understand that as well. However, it is my Mona Lisa. The 1914 Baltimore News. You got to think Babe Ruth was 19 years old. He'd just come out of the St. Mary's Industrial School for Boys. And I don't know if a lot of people know the backdrop of that card. They made sets in blue and red, right, for both teams in the Baltimore area. You had the Baltimore Orioles, right, and then you also had the Terrapins. There was another team called the Terrapins, and those were the teams that they made the sets for. But the pivot to that is what needs to be discussed more. And to answer your question, I'll get to in just a second. What needs to be discussed more is the value of SGC. I think is way underplayed here, because that card is an SGC holder. And what I try to tell people, a lot of people who are quote unquote new, past 24 months in the industry, is when you get to that level, there's not a big difference between SGC and PSA. And I think that needs to be focused on more, because people slight SGC when they shouldn't. They really shouldn't, because if SGC was really that that third tier, or that knockdown, if it was so much lower, you wouldn't see $1 million cards in them. You wouldn't see 1914 Roos in them. You wouldn't see Honus Wagners in them. You wouldn't see upper end 52 Manels in them. So they are really undervalued here, in my opinion. And I think that should be something that should be discussed more often. People should be looking for decent SGC vintage cards, because they're not a second tier. Even if they do sell for less than PSA, if that was a PSA 3 Ruth, I don't see it going for more than 5 or 10% more than it sold for now. I mean, you couldn't convince me that it would go for 15 million in a PSA 3 versus 6 million in an SGC 3. I don't see it going for more than 6.5 or 7 in PSA, if even any more. And if that holds to be true, there should be a lot more truth to that as you ascend down the vintage world. But to answer your question, Andrew, I think vintage should be looked at a lot more as stability, especially when you get in rare items. And if they do happen to be Mona Lisas, fractional shares start to happen. That card ends up being a $25 or $30 million card. Maybe those fractional share companies should be a play. You know, you're not going to drop $100,000 into them, but you know, a few $100 or a few $1,000 into the shares.
I mean, Cage said something funny. I'm going to turn this over to you, Cage. He said it wouldn't be a big deal if it was on a PSA slab or an SGC slab, because SGC is pre-war. It would be a little funny if it was on a BGS slab, though.
Right, like BVG. I wouldn't. I would say it's a little different. But I to your point exactly. Almost with a card like that, with a pop report, a single digits, maybe 10, out there, and there's always going to be a. I guess it won't be a black swamp find next time. Maybe it'll be like a red tree find, or it'll be like a desert hole find, or whatever the next find's going to be that finds 47 of these in perfectly mint condition that somebody made in their basement. But so when they have these single digit cards, really the slab is just it's authenticity, right? It's providing that stamp that this is not, you're not buying a fake, you're not buying something that somebody created for you. And condition is almost irrelevant. I mean, what's the best one of these? What is it, a 4, a 5? Yeah, 4, right? So a 4. So an SGC 3 versus a PSA 4, I'm sure there's a difference there. But when you're buying one of these and you know that you might see one of these come up for sale once a decade, SGC 3 versus PSA 4, you take what's going to become available, because you may never, now as these at this price get added into collections, into private collections, where people are not going to, the person who bought this at a $6 million valuation is not going to flip it in 6 months. Maybe they sell it in a couple years, maybe because somebody else has sold one for 10 and they're like, wow, look at a quick money I can make on this. But it's not one of those things where, like, if you're one of the two people, you say, well, I'm going to pass on this SGC 3 because I know a PSA will come up in the next golden auction. Nah, that's not the way it works. You know what I mean? So, that's my take on it. And yeah, SGC, for vintage stuff, they are legitimate grading. I mean, I've seen top cards in SGC holders. You're 100% right. You do see Wagner's in those holders. And, they were, the other thing about grading, and we talk about this, is, these companies, they all kind of have their time. Right, and for a while there was BGS, and now it's PSA, and Who knows? SGC does a little better job with their marketing. Maybe they give away 2 solo cups at the door of their grading facility. When somebody comes into the frat party. No, no good. Anyway,
You got to laugh for me. I laughed. I thought it was funny.
No, but so listen. So, what's your take on that, Eric? What's your take on the collectible, what the fractional shares? You think it's good? You think it's bad? You think it's a nice way to let people get involved in it? You think it's a way to publicize something without publicizing it? I mean, what's your take on that? There's a million ways to go.
As is with most things in life, I understand that there are negative aspects to it. It could be used in a negative way, right? I think there are potentials for manipulation in it. That being said, as is with everything in life, there can be. If I'm looking for the perfect solution, I wind up sitting on my hands into my last breath, right? That being said, we need it. We need it in the industry. It is an absolute necessity. The industry needs to evolve in a manner in which that the stock market. Now, I don't like how the stock market is void of pure emotion and love in regards to there's not an emotional attachment to a Tesla stock. You're really not emotionally attached to it. But the fractional share company is a necessity. At the truest form, it's a necessity. Whether you support Rally, Otis, Collectibles, Alt, whoever your flavor is, or if you support them all, or new ones to come in, it absolutely is a necessity because it allows for purchases to be displayed. It allows for them to procure these upper end items. And like you said, for you to purchase them into, whether it's you, maybe your teenage son, you're teaching them about the stock market, but this is a good pivot point to get them into the conceptualization of shares. It is absolutely something we need to have happen. We need more of them. We honestly, it would be nice to have 10 or 15 of them. I know it sounds crazy, but also I do like how some of them collectibles, I think you can sell or trade daily or at least weekly. I think Otis is also the same way. That is beautiful. That's beautiful. I think it even needs to evolve more to where you can be let's hypothetically worth the national. I would like to see to where you could trade shares. If I'm buying a card from you, and let's say I know you got a Jordan, right? And I give you cash and 100 grand in shares of another. Let's say I give you 100 grand in that Babe Ruth, because they're only selling 1%. Only so many people get them. What if you want part of that 1%, but you got a Jordan and you're not really looking to sell, but I trade you all my shares and some cash for your Jordan? Might do it. It might get the trigger pulled. I think it's something we absolutely need to have. And it's a discussion that needs to be talked about more often.
So I'll try to do this every time I put my hand up and I say, here's the clippable piece for this episode, right? Here's my clippable one. I'm talking to Ezra, talking to our Rob from Rally who was on. I'm talking about our guys who were on. Otis. Hey, Otis. I haven't had Otis on yet, but, bring Otis over here. Otis is one of my favorite, Kanye, Jay-Z collaborations. So we'll have you on. We'll talk about that. So here's the point. You ready for this one? I will buy into the next fractional share offering that not only has an awesome card being offered to somebody, but to the people like me who don't get to hold the card, but get a fraction of a percentage. Let's use this Ruth, for example, right? If Collectible went out, listen, right? You're going to sell 1% at a 60,000 valuation. So there's maximum 20,000 shares that are going to be out there. Okay. They should serial number 20,000 NFTs. And everybody who buys a piece, one of the 20,000 shares, gets serial number 1 through 20,000. It will cost very little for them to do it. They could do it on OpenSeas, do it wherever it is. And everyone who buys a piece of the share of the card should get an NFT version of that card, serial numbered. And that's like their stock certificate. All right. And then in addition to saying, I own a share of this, they're also getting this additionally tradable thing that's got some utility. It's their stock certificates. They can show, hey, by the way, look, I'm an owner. It's one thing to say at the National or wherever else, I got a piece of that Baltimore News, Ruth. It's another thing to hold their phone out and say, look at this. Here's my NFT. Here's my token of that card. The one that does that and combines this fractional share with this new type of token, this new type of cool asset that's out there, now you're adding on some tradability. I don't know how it will work with the regulations, but I mean, if people issue stock certificates, I don't see why you can't do this.
I could tell Eric likes your idea.
Yeah, dude, I like that, thinking outside of the box, man. That's insane. It is, Cage. That's on another. I don't know that idiosyncrasies involved, the logistics, the software logistics of making that happen. But just conceptually, when you think about it, yeah. And I've been hesitant in the NFT thing. I understand it. It's just maybe not for me. But if you're trying to get people like me, who NFTs just aren't for, into the NFT market, that's how you do it. That's
right.
Like I saw Topps was going to do an NFT. My Gettysburg Address, my third favorite player of all time is Lou Gehrig. My Gettysburg Address speech, and most people never know this about me, other than my close family, and I listen to it on a regular basis, is Lou Gehrig's speech, his Luckiest Man speech. I pretty much have it memorized. I had probably for over 20 years. And Topps is going to release an NFT about that. And when I heard about that, part of me was like, no. But then a part of me was like, I kind of want it. I kind of, and that it's once you start thinking outside the box like that, my fear with the Lou Gehrig thing is that they'll remove it off YouTube to where the only way you'll be able to watch it is if you own an NFT. That would be soul crushing. But I think the aspect of fractional share companies unifying it with NFT platform, that's game changing. Especially, you don't have to do it for every card, right? These big whale cards, 52 tops, the 1916 Ruth, 1914 Ruth. And I'm sure there's other ones. Or, maybe a fractional share company wins the PSA 9 Gaudi, fractionalized part of that, and also attach an NFT.
Andrew, that's the one I mentioned yesterday when we talk about these cards. I said, look, that wouldn't be the one I went after. The one I went after would be the yellow, the 53 Mint 9 from 1933. Yep, 100%. That card's a beauty.
Yeah,
Eric, let me ask.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say Cage might buy shares, but if they attach an NFT, he would have an alarm set for that puppy.
That's right. I will. I'll buy multiple.
Yeah, there's a difference between, I'm thinking about it, and when they, you get the email, you're like, I might, but if you attach an NFT to it, then I guarantee you're going to be sitting there, paddling your thumbs going, man, just waiting to hit that buy button. And that's what it's about.
It's a cool add-on, you know what I mean? It's a cool thing, and it's another way to display it, right? I mean, if stocks have stock certificates, not that people, who are investing and flipping have stock certificates, but I mean, like, it's a way to say, like, part of the problem with, and obviously a Ruth card worth $6 million doesn't do this, but like, some of these fractional things, they're auctioning off, they're selling fractional shares of $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 cards, which I get. That's a huge thing, but there's a huge market out there that would just buy the card. You know what I mean? You can't really do that with the $6 million Ruth. So I get the fractional share for that. Trust me. But I mean, like, the smaller ones, I'll just get the card. And part of that was always like, I need to have the tangible thing. Like, instead of me buying a Ted Williams PSA 8, I'll buy a 4. And I'll have the whole thing for myself instead of owning shares of a small, a couple of. But if you have that cool other way of like, hey, I'm one of the club. Look what I got here. Like I got this cool little, this virtual version of it showing that I'm an owner of it. I got 5 of them. I got 8 of them. I got, whatever. That it's just a cool little layering on thing. That's, that's the deal.
Eric, so a lot of people have come into the hobby in the last, let's say, 6 months to a year, and they've kind of got rocked. They bought into a down market. They're a little bit discouraged. There's a lesson to be learned from down cycles, and you've been through up and down cycles. You've been in the hobby for quite some time, so I want to hear your expertise here. These people that have got crushed, we don't want them to leave the hobby. They're good for the hobby. The growth in the hobby is through more demand, more people, more buyers. What do you say to those people? What do you say is the future? What's the next 6 months look like for the hobby? Can you talk to them?
Yeah, man. I mean, really. If you've been in here for more than a year, let's say a year and a half, I hope you learned something about yourself. And I really hope you stayed in long enough to garner a passion for this hobby. I saw a meme the other day. It was the meme, James posted it, about how when things were good, there's everybody sitting around the table and eating. And then after in the bear market, right, it's just the collectors, just like people like me sitting there at the table and we're alone. That's my fear, is that the market went through the roof And at the end, I'm going to be left holding the bag of a broken hobby that I've loved for going, 16 years, right? It's part of who I am. I don't want them to leave. And I understand why PSA and Beckett raised the rates. I understand why Panini raises the rates. But what happens is people came into the industry because there was an arbitrage there to make money. They got in for the money, right? And I get it. When these companies, and I love them, right? I need them too. But when they keep raising the rates, it sucks up all the profit out of these new people that came in the industry. And I'm afraid that they'll leave if there's no money for them to be in it. I want them to be in it because they love it, but I also want them to be in it to make money as well. I think take this opportunity to enjoy the cards that you have, learn about the industry, learn about the sports, like actually learn to love what it is you do. Like people ask me questions all the time. That's why I'm on here as a fountain of knowledge, whether it be a history of the 1914 or even, the history of different types of races in sports. A lot of people aren't even aware that Jackie Robinson wasn't the first African-American to break the color barrier. Most people don't even know that. They just assume he was. Learn about maybe who was the first African-American to ever play in baseball. Stuff to that effect. Take time to actually learn about what it is you put your money into. But how to get them to stay in to make money? Diversify. Look at the fractional shares. Look, if you want to make money in the industry, right? Learn to put a pause. That's why a lot of people ask me, Eric, you made so much money since you've been in it. Why don't you do this full time and just do cards and not work? No way. I want to have a full-time job. I don't want to have to be forced to do this for my only sole source of income. And another thing mine and Andrew's experience, a lot of times when I personally sell people stuff, I believe in the items so much, I'll offer them a money back guarantee. If in 3 to 6 months this card hasn't gone up, call me back. I'll buy back from you at full price. You have a zero risk opportunity to be involved in a lot of the transactions that I deal with. Because I've made so much money, I can offer that because I believe in my decisions and I believe in the players. And if I'm wrong, I'll buy that back in a heartbeat, 100%. Hang out with people like that. Get to know people like that. Make sure that the people that you're around or in your circle aren't fleecing other people, aren't overcharging other people. Call them out if you see it. It's okay, because the better the integrity is of the hobby, the longer it lasts. We all want a 3X when we shouldn't. We should all be looking to make 20 or 30%.
I love it. I love all of that, especially the subtle shout out to Jimmy Claxton from the Oakland Oaks. Well done. Nice done. This guy's a historian, man. It's 1916, man.
What was that?
I said Jimmy Claxton was actually the person who broke the professional baseball color barrier.
No, it wasn't. It was William White, but he was light skinned, so he kind of passed for white.
What year?
Walter White. Walter White broke the code.
No, his name was William White.
What year?
Give me a second.
Yeah.
But he was kind of light skinned, so he could pass for white. However, there was a gentleman by the name of Moses Fleetwood Mac in 1884.
1884.
Hold up. I'm not done. Right? He played in 1884 for the Toledo Blue Stockings, and he played. Ironically, I believe he played one season. He played 42 games. Jackie Robinson's number. I believe he played 40. You could fact check me on this, but his name was Moses Fleetwood Walker. And
Moses Fleetwood Walker.
Yeah, Fleetwood Walker. And so he was the first African American who looked African American, because William White could pass for white or could pass for multicultural, but Moses Fleetwood Walker was the first openly. He looked African American and was black player, and to break the color barrier. But now he didn't.
So the Walker brothers both played for the Toledo team, but that was not in Major League Baseball. Like, that was the American Association, right? Major League Baseball. If we're talking about major leagues, we're talking about, because back then there was a whole bunch of different leagues. We're talking about the Oakland Oaks, man. I mean, we're talking about Claxton. Only played 2 games for the Oakland Oaks, but yeah, I mean, listen, this is a cool story, right? Because everybody just immediately goes to the 48 Leaf Jackie Robinson, but there's a century of history almost, half a century of history before that. It's pretty nuts.
And it's conversations like this that should be happening more at dinner tables, at the National, at the Dallas show, at Dell's. A lot of people So my mother is 100% Hispanic and Native American, right? I didn't know when, up until like 10 years ago, into my 30s, I wasn't aware that Ted Williams was half Mexican. Like I didn't even know that. Like his mom was full Hispanic, because he came from South California, is where he was born. His mom used to do service work across the border in Mexico a lot of the times. I wasn't even aware of that, And I also wasn't aware that on Ted Williams' Hall of Fame speech, January 25th, 1966, his Hall of Fame speech, he actually became the first Hall of Fame player on that day of his induction to advocate that Negro League players be allowed into the Hall of Fame. That Ted Williams openly advocated that Negro League players become part of the Hall of Fame, which was huge. I mean, these are things that I think the more people learn about the history, whether it be baseball, football, basketball, as it becomes more emotionally ingrained into you, money falls where it should be in the hierarchy of the industry, and it's second. Money shouldn't be the focus. It shouldn't be number one. At best, it should be number two at all times. And I think if we can get it there and get people to stick around and to learn for different avenues. But on the aspect of how the market is doing, I got in a discussion with Chris Hoge, if you will. It's not his last name, but I got a discussion with Chris the other day. And technically speaking, that the market cap right now is the same as it was a couple months ago. However, it's more diversified. You've got F1, a lot more soccer, a lot more non-sport or just things that they track. Instead of it being parabolic in one sport and then a couple others, it is kind of flattened out across.
F1, by the way, Andrew posted some stuff yesterday in response to a card porn post about tennis and F1, and he got some fun comments back. He got a little heated stuff. Everybody likes to come after Andrew. He's just got that, that there's something about your face. I just want to punch him kind of thing going on there, right?
That's a good movie quote.
I just want to punch it, right? So, and I think we're gonna set up like
the internet community agrees with you. In real life, I think I'm very lovable. I'm like a teddy bear.
We're setting up a global debate. That's how you debate. We're gonna set up like it's Andrew against. I'm not gonna tease it too much, but there's something fun coming, right? Andrew's gonna be debating the tennis F1 card pump and dump kind of stuff against. Let's call it somebody
against
who
wants
to defend the F1 stuff and how it's been a collectible, outside of Andrew's little sphere in Mexico.
Can you contextualize it? So someone did a TikTok.
You can.
Card porn posted it. It was like Serena Williams cards were like $3,000 at the hype. Now they're $300, and the guy threw the card in the trash.
Right in the garbage.
And I said, well, actually, this is funny because Cage has been shouting from the rooftops, when there's a down market, be careful of these ancillary sports because they're the ones that are going to get crushed the hardest. So it actually wasn't even my quote. It was Cage's quote. And I was like, and the guy was like, F1 and tennis are so different. And I'm like, the more I think about it, they have so many similarities. Individual sport, one sponsor. If you polled 100 people in the world and you would ask them what's more popular, tennis or F1, I bet 50 would say tennis, 50 would say F1.
Yeah, probably. That's probably
outside of Lewis Hamilton. Who do people really know? Outside of Serena Williams, Rafael Nadal, Roger Federer, do people really know? Even the 10th best player in the world. Do people even know the number 2 best women's tennis player in the world? So that's the angle I went with, but it's going to be fun. You've brought up F1 twice on the show. So what do you think about F1, and if you want to get into some of those ancillary cards? And then, guys, stay tuned. We have a really special treat for the last 15, 20 minutes of this episode, so stay tuned. Eric, what do you think of F1 cards?
I think, you're asking me, I thought you were asking Cage. I agree. I think they could stick around, though, for a little bit. The patch autos, the ones that have they check the boxes, if you will, of what we look for. The ticker cards, the patch autos, the quote unquote, their rookie cards. They could definitely stick around. I think that there is more of an ROI potential gain in the F1, but as noted, the crash goes hand in hand. You don't get one without the other. Unfortunately, that's just how life works, right? I do think that things, as in tennis, they could go parabolic. And that was my worry with boxing and UFC. Right? They ramp up really high, but they could drop. There needs to be more of a foundation stability. I do think the audience base is there. It's going to take time to let those people become more comfortable with them. with the cards in the market. I do think as they get more and more attention, it will take hold better. I do understand. I understand, and it's weird. Is you could debate these as Cage was talking about, right? It's like that. It's time to debate. I'm kind of on the fence on some of these. You could convince me one way or the other. I want them to be, because I'm selfish, right? Coming from America, I want my big three to be number one. I want hockey to be somewhere like that little stepchild or the little secondary one, that one that's just kind of off to the side. I want just the four, nobody else. But the truth is, it needs to be more than that. It needs to be globally inclusive to a lot of the other sports. So it's going to take time. I do think they can work through sports.
And I don't know if Cage saw this, but I think when it's going to be UFC Prism, Cage might be singing a different tune.
Why?
Because
UFC
you love
Prism.
UFC.
But UFC Prism
and
came
you
out.
love Prism, and this is a marriage made in heaven for you.
Yeah, but
It's a very simple
already.
formula.
And you know what the thing was? I mean, I can tell you, when I collected UFC cards big, when I collected, I was really into them, and I had, one of the top collections value-wise. There are some real UFC whales. I know a bunch of them still, right? But when I started collecting, I mean, I was buying 20, 30 cases of product when they came out and opening them all myself. Right, that's the kind of stuff I was just ripping like crazy. Like,
Did Ian pull heat? Did Ian pull fire?
And I mean, Ian wasn't born, so he didn't pull any heat. So I would talk about in 2011, Leaf. You say what you want about their products, right? But UFC was one of these things where Topps came out in 2009, and at the time, Leaf put out a product in 2010. There just wasn't a lot of product out there. And even though Leaf wasn't licensed, they came out with their second product, and their final product was a Leaf metal product from 2011, which I loved. I absolutely loved. It was no pack ripping. It was boxes. So every case came with 12 boxes, whatever the heck it was. And each box had already, not slabbed, it's sort of like a precursor to encased. But in top loaders, it had I think 5 or 8 top loaded cards. And in the order of best to worst, and the best card was on the bottom, and it was usually like a color card, a 101 or out of 5 or whatever it was. They had an international version which had national prides, which they've carried forward, like flag background cards of the fighters from their country and stuff like that. Really cool stuff. And when that came out, I think they only made 150 cases total of it. I opened 38 of the cases. I opened like over a quarter of the entire print run of the product. I loved it that much. And I mean, I one-on-ones like crazy. Rory McDonald was a huge, rookie at the time. It was his first card, and Gilbert Melendez and the scrap pack with the Diaz brothers and those guys. I mean, it was. I opened so much of that stuff. But here's the fun, right? I opened a lot of it. I loved it. I was keeping some for myself, selling some. Topps, you could buy Topps boxes, some of the smaller ones, Topps, like their Series 4 from 2011, their Moment of Truth. The boxes were $40 a box. You buy a case for, $500. Even their high-end stuff, right, where Knockout was the big product that came out. It had, Ronda Rousey in it. It had, gear relics. It had those cool, you see, the triple thread type cards, right? Even those, they're $150 a box. You buy a case, a 12-box case of those. Actually, they were 8-box cases, and you were still under $1,000. So, Knockout, which was uber premium for it, right? I could buy an 8-box case for less than what they're being charged now for a Prism box, for one box of Prism. And I watched a lot of the box openings. I killed it on the one box I got. I mean, I got a color blast on it, right? And of Nagano, I got a color blast, and I got my 2 autos. You get 2 autos. One was a redemption, which is just mind blowing. Right? I'm like, thanks. But at least it was a decent redemption. It was a red auto out of 50 of Whitaker, former champ. And Michael Chandler, red auto, which is a rookie auto. He just lost the title fight. But so I crushed it in my box, and I still was not willing to go and shell out 4 figures for another single box of Prism. So that's the difference, Andrew. And it really is kind of that little fun that I'm talking about there. That's the difference between the hobby today and the hobby the way that it was. Not just UFC, everything, right? So how easy it was for me to get back in. I loved watching the fights. I watched the fights with 1 or 2 friends all the time. And I'm like, you know what? They got cards for this. I found out about the cards. I found out about, and I'm like, I'm going to dive in. And it didn't break the bank for me to dive in. It didn't kill me. You could do it at any level, right? And if you just wanted to buy a box, you buy a box for under $100. That's not there now. You can't get into this hobby and just test the waters. You can't get into the hobby and just open a box,
That is true. There has to be a way. And it broke my heart when I found out Panini was raising the prices 50%. I feel like there needs to be another solution other than just charging the collector more. There's a big backlog in PSA, charge the collectors more. There's a big backlog in Beckett, charge the collectors more. Oh, people are fighting over product at Target and Walmart, charge the collectors more. It doesn't affect me.
Inevitably, what happens, right? Inevitably, what happens? We lose some of the people in the hobby, right?
It's weird that. Think about this. The problem is there's too much demand. And the solution is, well, we basically need to force the demand away from us, as opposed to going, okay, what can we do to keep the demand? Let's keep the demand, but yet fix the solution without. Basically, you're handing them the hat, handing them the coat, unlocking your door, and shoving them out of the house. And then when everybody's forced to leave your house, you're looking around going, where'd everybody go? What happened? What happened? Like, you just squeezed everybody out of the hobby, trying in the name of the demand. The solution for the panini thing was really simple. Really, buy the products online, and they go pick them up at Target or Walmart. Right? You charge them a fee for like a labor fee, a convenience fee, right? Maybe $1, $2 a box, $2 a box for the labor that's going to have to stand there and hand out the box, right? You get a QR code. They scan your QR code, showing that you've paid for your 2 or 3 box maximum per person. You attach it to their driver's license, so one DL can only get X amount of boxes a day. So it automatically loads so you can't go out, change your shirt, change your hat, come back in and buy a couple more boxes, right? Because that's what people are doing, right? They go in, buy a couple boxes, run back, change clothes, go back in. Then that's where the chaos and throw. It literally took like, I don't know, a minute for me to think of that. I mean, there's so many other solutions other than just take money away from people. And it breaks my heart that always, it's so sad. It is what it is. It's unfortunate because, like you said, Cage, the fun is getting people into the hobby, breaking the boxes.
Yeah. Oh, listen, the other part of it is that when the going's good, right? And these card companies and grading companies, they can't do anything wrong. Yeah, because the demand is there and everybody's making money, right? But here's where the rubber hits the road. I'd love to hear your take on it, and we can bring in Omar. So this is where the money's made. This is where long-term success is going to be found by some of these companies, some of these vendors, some of these, content creators who have come in the hobby in the last 18 months, 24 months, you name it, right? Because everybody's a genius when everybody's making money. Everybody can pick a card. Everybody can be the right grader. Everybody can do all this stuff. But when you're on an upswing, everybody's smiling, right? But when you hit a little bit of rough patch, when it's bumpy, when the water's bumpy, right? Or when you're on that down slope, right? And you're making picks, and not everything is working. Here's the fun, and I guess what I want to know from you is, if you were, what I see for like PSA is, and some of the other companies, I'll throw it out there. I see snobbery. There's a clippable video right there. I see snobbery. I see people who are like, well, I don't need all of this demand. And I'm okay to shed some of the participants in the hobby. I don't need the people who were just in it for the money. If they were just in it for the money, they're in it for the wrong reasons. I am a gatekeeper of the hobby. I'm the old crusty man in the card show with the binders who's been here forever, and I don't need the kids coming in with their cases full of slabs looking to change the way it's been done for so long. And I think really, I use this all the time, and Andrew always laughs at me, but I say sodium pentothal. I say if you pump a couple of these companies full of that truth serum, right, that sodium pentothal, you give them a little shot of it, right, I think they would tell you that they wouldn't mind siphoning off 20% and normalizing it and saying, all right, you know what, we will make more money by charging the 80% that's left 130% of the current price. And we'll do better. We won't have the backlogs. We'll have less people, and we'll lose that segment of the industry that we didn't really even want anyway because they're here for the wrong reasons. What do you think?
So, what you're saying is, from your perception, and it makes a lot of sense. I kind of agree with it, right? So let's get rid of the ones we don't want, but in the process, let's host the ones over that we want to keep, right? Let's overcharge the people that we want to keep. So that's
pretty much.
Yeah, and it's sad because you're right, because it's people like, back to that meme I think I got it from Lamine James, right? About it's the collectors left it alone at the table at the end. When the 20% gets squeezed out, and you have 80% left, and all these people I'm just tired of Panini wants to overcharge me. This company wants to overcharge me. Thankfully, we have SGC sitting off there in the periphery going, $30, 20-day turnaround. Like, I want to throw out some credit right now for SGC, right? I mean, they're offering a 30-day grading service, a 20-day turnaround. Like, I don't have a dog in the race. I don't own any SGC cards. But man, I'm really starting to think about it. I don't see any reason why I shouldn't. You know, and they're standing by their product. They're not charging $50 or $100 anymore, right? Those days, they're like, hey, we're going to try to keep it at 30, offer a 20-day turnaround.
The only thing I would say, right, and I don't have any SGC also, is I would think if I were a grading company, I want to get back to also the people who are going to be left over, and then we'll roll into that. But if I were SGC, I would say we're going to offer that, but I'm going to offer it to the first 10,000 people this week who are able to sign up for it and cap it. Because what you've seen is when PSA opens the floodgates and they say, we're going to do this, we're going to have 1 million, group subbers, we're going to have people do it at discount rates, you name it. The tsunami that comes in just washes over the shore and they cannot deal with it. The levees break. And you saw when they closed, BGS came out and said, we're going to deal with this, we're going to take it. And BGS now had to close because they could not deal with the wave crashing through their gates in Texas, right? The Rio Grande just washed up in their facility, right? So now they're closed. SGC is now doubling down. You would think that with PSA closed and Beckett closed, they're already going to get an influx of stuff. And then when they make a promise of we're going to do a 20-day turnaround on a 30-day order, I think they need to limit what they take in, because I would love to predict something. And SGC, I don't wish anything bad on anybody, but I think you're going to hear in a month SGC might have to close their doors down, or they're not going to be able to, they're not going to be able to meet this demand, because people don't understand how much demand there is. And the only way to control that is to limit demand, limit the amount you take in by the capacity that you have.
The way you do that, and in my perception, right, just an outsider, I don't work in any of these companies. You allocate bulk submitters, X amount per state, right? And you only take submissions from your bulk submitters. You no longer take Joe Schmo. You no longer take Eric Myers sending cards in.
Yep.
You no longer take Cage or Andrew.
Yep.
We're only taking orders until we get caught up. We're only taking orders from our allocated bulk submitters. Each bulk submitter is allocated X amount of cards, and that's it. And I know, for lack of a better term, I hate to say, you just pawn off the overflow to your bulk submitters.
Yep.
You do give them a discounted rate, and they're making enough profits where they then deal with the problem.
Correct.
Right?
I think that's 100% a great way to do it.
Right. I mean, in that way, you want to deal with a few hundred bulk submitters. Easier on shipping coming in, shipping going out. Each submitter sends X amount of cards, and it at least funnels it down. Right. You still have cards coming in. You still have cards going out.
So Eric, back to the siphoning off. And these companies that they'll be okay with 80% of the hobby left. So here's my question for you, right? Because you are in this, man. You're in this. You're overseas. You're basically on the moon planting a flag. Right, you're claiming the Southeast Korea and the Asian markets, and you are going to now become an expert in them, right? So this stuff. Emerging markets. You've seen what's happened over the last 2 years, 3 years, 10 years, 20 years. The ups and the downs. For the last 2 years, everybody who had a microphone, a crappy headset like mine, everybody who was able to talk about cards and had more than 3 people who were not related to them listen, they uttered this phrase. They uttered this phrase to the 16, 18, 20, 22-year-olds who got back in the hobby in the last 18 to 24 months. Every one of them has been told by the geniuses in this hobby to buy what they love. Buy what you love. Buy what you love. Well, those people are now sitting with stuff they love underwater. Those people have bought the cards they love and are now down money. All right? What would you, as somebody who's been in this for some time and has seen ups and downs, what would you tell those guys with a specific eye towards having them not escape, having them not run from the hobby with their hair on fire? They now are sitting there with a bunch of, base PSA 10s of a player they love. Or they're sitting there, even people who have bought in the last couple of months, maybe they're sitting there with Kobe's and LeBron's, they're sitting there with blue chip cards, but they're underwater on them because they have gone down significantly for the last, better part of this year. What do you say to that segment of our hobby that maybe the grading companies and the card manufacturers and the snobs of the world don't care what happens to? How do we keep them happy? What do we say to them? How do we keep them here?
I'm open to discussion for that, Cage. That's a deep question. That is. It's hard to answer that in one conversation. Because I'm sure there's people that bought LeBron Combs at $40,000 and they're now at 20. I think
I say Panini and Beckett and PSA stimulus payment. Whatever
Yeah,
people
Oh
Stimmy.
lost.
man,
That's
I
it.
love that.
Stimmy.
Love it.
Send them a stimulus.
So,
Stimmy checks,
so
everybody.
would it
I
be
think,
fair to say, given your experience in the hobby, would it be fair to say that, right now we're in a downswing, but
yeah.
just as every time we have an upswing, there's a pullback, and it's unfair to, think about these, it's not straight to the moon. These are cards,
Yeah.
not Dogecoin.
I mean,
Right?
relatively speaking, statistically speaking, odds are it's going to go back up,
Yep.
right? But I can't guarantee that. And
Of course.
I try to be very choice with my words as much as possible. So I can't guarantee that you'll even break even in the next 12 months. But statistically speaking, you probably will in the next 18 to 36 months. You'll break even and make your money back.
Yeah,
I've said
this segment, right? It has been a steady increase as an asset, this class of asset, the right assets, right?
For honestly, for going on 16 years, Cage, I've said it can't keep doing this, and I've been wrong every single year. Like literally, even the years when it would dip and I might not make any money or maybe make just not as much as I did the year before money. When you went to the next year and the year after, it just, like you said, kept going up. Every year I'm like, I didn't get here because my parents were rich. My parents don't have any, neither one of my parents have even a college degree. I got here just because year in, year out, it keeps doing this, like slowly. And sometimes it'll plateau or dip, but then it, like you said, corrects it. Over 16 years, I can't even tell you how many of the next multiplier I'm up. Well, yeah, I can. Up well over 1,000% from where I started. Probably well over that. I mean, I started it with 15 grand. 15, 16 years ago, right? So I mean, I'm way up. So it just keeps it over time. It keeps going. Patience is a virtue. Be patient. Stick to that. Don't panic, man. And I think that's part of it when you said buy what you love, right? Be patient with it. Don't expect that it's always going to be going up. But when I talk to people and I speak more so on the relationships and the fairness of the transaction than I do the monetary growth in the transaction, it's because I've lived through dips, Cage.
That's
I've
right.
lived-
That's right.
if I understand that the LeBron tops chrome or Kobe tops chrome refractor, with some greening or a little bit of greening, whatever, it might have went from 50,000 to 100,000 to 120. That doesn't mean that you sell the next one for 200 because it could go way up. Or I want my 6 months interest now for what it could be tomorrow.
Exactly.
No, you do not do that because there are pullbacks, and the person in front of you, that's somebody's wife, that's somebody's husband, that's somebody's father, that's somebody's son. That is a human being. And like you said, you don't want to be the person who left up. I'm grateful.
You're 100% right. 100% right.
If I don't want to be remembered for somebody who had Kobe's, who knew a lot about vintage, or who has worked for the companies I work for or done what I've done. If I want to be remembered for anything in this industry, it's because when I conducted business transactions, I treated people fair. And if I can be remembered for anything, that's the only thing I want to be treated. I
love it.
For.
It's a good place to break and bring somebody in. Give me 30 seconds, okay?
Perfect. So I'm going to bring in Omar. Omar is the founder of one of one memorabilia. He was introduced to us by Mr. Eric Myers. What's up, Omar? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can. So this is how I understand it. So I have a good friend, okay? He scored a game-winning goal in high school, took his cleat off, and ran around the stadium kissing it. Okay, let's say his parents caught that moment, okay? And they wanted to remember it. They could have taken a photo of my friend and sent that cleat in. And you would have made, maybe a 1 of 1 or a 1 of 5 card to remember that moment. Am I thinking about your business the right way?
Correct. So what we do is, we make custom-made memorabilia cards. So the whole objective is to make them as personal as possible, if that makes any sense. So this could be, example, while you guys are talking, I just made this card right here. So that's a home run ball that.
Can you show it a little bit closer?
Right there.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then it has the stats and everything on the back.
A little Philadelphia Eagles?
Well, it's a little league team that they have down in California.
Okay.
So yeah, we design the cards for you guys. You send in your memorabilia material, or we can provide one, and then we put it all together and we ship it out to you guys wherever you're located. So we can do anything from baseball, ice hockey. I've done gymnastics. We put the actual trampoline into the card. I've done a friend's child's first pair of shoes. We added a video to the back of the card with a QR code where he had his first footsteps. This is my little boy's birth bracelet. And then
Cool.
QR code on the back and a little message to my wife.
Omar, tell me. So, Eric just maybe 30 minutes ago, he said, I wish we would get back in the hobby to not just worrying about money. I mean, money's important, but doing things for the right reasons. This to me, it was the most evident epitome of that. Talk to me how you started this business. What was the urge? What was the need? Why did you want to start one of one memorabilia?
It's my passion. Like I love cards. I love the whole thing about it. I love how it brings back childhood memories. I love how you're as close as you can get to a player. If it's Wayne Gretzky, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, whoever it is, like it's a big part of my life and who I am. For me, these cards are they're just not typical trading cards. They're not your normal trading cards. They motivate, they inspire these kids. They some of them, like you see their faces and their reactions, like completely priceless. Like if I had that growing up as a child and had my own personal card, like, man, like I'd be over the moon. And the thing is like, I would probably look at it right now and be like, oh, I remember that moment. So it's just like enhancing memories and stuff too. So it's keeping the hobby alive as well with the younger generation. I think that's really important. Like we need to, like these guys were saying, like that was a great podcast or video, but it's keeping the hobby, keeping these kids interested in it, having them to believe in themselves. So there's so much to it. Sorry.
Yeah, and I agree with.
Oh, sorry, Eric. I was gonna say, no, I love you. I love you sharing that. And it's passion projects are amazing to hear from. How did you and Eric meet? I think Eric, that's what you were trying to get at.
Yeah, so that's how I found Omar, was that honestly, across my Facebook last year, I saw some of his cards, and I was just enthralled. Like, I mean, literally just blown away. I saw it instantly. I wasn't attracted to it to become a partner in order to make money. Like, I thought about, yeah, what Omar said. If I was a kid, when I was 12 years old, swinging the bat, what would that have thought if I had one of those of me, And it literally moved me. They're like $25. It's nothing. And a game used jersey in there, like a card stamped 1 of 1, whether it's a 130 point or 260 point card. The connectivity that it would have made me feel, because back when I was a kid, you just had like a little card. It's like a little really thin card with a picture on it, maybe your name on the back. It was something, but it wasn't like the iconic looking cards that these are that offer the community today. And I saw them, and I went through, I went to his website and looked at the multitude of different formats you could use, different sports. It'd be tennis, baseball, basketball, football, and then he started doing them for soldiers, baby bracelets, and it was just so many different ways, so many different avenues that you could utilize it. I just had to reach out. And we've talked and communicated ever since. And especially once I moved out here to South Korea, I decided I wanted to partner up with him just because of what Cage had mentioned. It's hard to get connectivity from adult to child in this industry, and this is it. This is a connecting point, and life has blessed me a ton in this industry. And if I can spend the next year or two trying to bring connectivity to the youth, I'd rather spend my time doing that.
Omar, what are some cool kind of memorabilia or cards that you've made? What are some cool things people have sent into you that, kind of surprised you or interest you, or you were like, wow, I could have never even thought of a use case for this?
The baby shoe was really interesting. Like, because growing up in the hobby or collecting as well too, you're always thinking sports memorabilia. Like, you're always thinking a piece of a jersey or a basketball court, but a baby shoe, like that was like, oh, that's really cool. Like who would ever think of like putting your child's shoe into a card, right? Because in reality, it's like, let's be honest, like a lot of the baby stuff, like you just put it on the shelf and then that's it. It's left and forgotten, right? So I thought that was really cool. I don't think it's the memorabilia, like what they've said. Like baseballs are very common, hockey sticks, basketball courts, nets. It's the reaction. It's priceless. Like when you got 11-year-old looking at his own card and just boom, just sit back in their chair and just that is the most rewarding thing. Like if I'm making a difference, like if I'm put on this world for something, that is it. Like honestly, like a card so simple, so small is making such a huge impact. Like it's really hard to explain.
What do you think about the ones for the soldiers? I think I like the cards for the soldiers, especially if there's fallen soldiers out there, and to put part of the jerseys in there, part of the uniform in there.
Yeah, so I think the fallen soldiers, like that is really important because for me, they've done a lot for us, if that makes sense. Like they've done so much for us. Like they basically gave us freedom. It's because they're here, they're safe in our own household. So I really don't get too much into them because those are really, really personal items for a lot of people. But like I've done some really cool ones, like really sentimental nostalgia ones where it's just like, wow, like I can't believe that they're trusting me with this material that this is a family member has passed away and they've mailed it to me and I'm making a card for them. Like it's mind-boggling sometimes, the stuff they send me.
So, guys, listeners of Luca Nation, here's what I'd like you to do. So, please go follow One of One MC on Instagram. You'll be able to see, there's rugby, hockey, football, baseball, all different types of cards. And I think this is one of those things that's visual when you see it. When you see, your little boys, your little girls, like the thread from their basketball game or whatever it is, the baseball from their little league game. I think when you see the visual representation of what we're talking about, it's super, super valuable. Omar, talk to people. Let's say Drake's son plays little league. Shout out to you, Drake. Sports in Arkansas. His son hits a walk-off home run. They get that ball. What's the process from that moment to then go ahead and send it into you and get it manufactured, I guess?
Yeah, so you just log on to my website, www.oneofonemc.com. You select your template. From your template, you fill out your information, and then it'll give you options if you want to either mail your memorabilia material in or us to provide one in. And then you just go through the checkout process, and then you go from there. And then I try to make it as personal as possible in regards to the service side. Like, I'll keep in contact with you, update you, the process, when I'm shipping it, provide you a tracking number, expectation dates of delivery, and everything else as well too. I'll provide a proof too. So in regards to the design concept, like I'll provide a proof, you guys will prove it, then I'll put it into printing, and then that's when I assemble everything, and then I'll send you the final card, then ship it as well.
Am I seeing this right? It's $25 per card?
Yeah. So my goal for the company, and this is really big, like a really big dream and goal, is to have every kid to have a card, period. Like, I know it's not possible, but that's my dream.
Imagine if Babe Ruth's 1914 card wasn't his true rookie. Imagine his 1905. His mom sent one of these into one of one MC. That's the card I want.
Don't laugh, man. I mean, seriously, it's funny that this may
Fine, no
actually
joke.
be something. I don't know. I forget if it was Golden or who had it, but somebody had this dual sign Mahomes, right? Where someone got Patrick Mahomes' signature, right, on the back of a car of his dad's card,
Of his
right, or
dad's
something like that,
card.
right? It was on his dad's card, and they had the kid sign it in the locker room or something like that, and it just sold at auction, right, Eric?
Yeah.
And
that's
so
right.
what you're
On the
saying,
back
it
of it.
actually can come, especially, if Omar's making these Little League cards of the people who are going to be in the Little League World Series are going to be like legitimate players and that kind of stuff like that. You could wind up with the next guy who, turns into the next big thing, the next Patrick Mahomes, the next Tatis. Omar might have made his real rookie card. So you're 100% right. I mean, I know it's a joke, but it's already happening. So, yeah, that would be pretty cool. That'd be really cool. I see a different expansion on it, right? I mean, $25 per it might not be, but I mean, for a company like me and Andrew, maybe we get 10 VIP business cards. Get a piece of Andrew's Kobe jersey that he wears on the episodes, or one of the Luca Nation's favorite of my T-shirts. Like today, Andrew's texting me, and I said, "Hey, Andrew, remember when I asked for your opinion?" No, me neither. So, I mean, you never know. Like these shirts, they, put them in
It's
a card.
easier for Cage to literally rip the shirt over his head than to just stand up.
I don't want to
That's
stand
what we've
up.
got to.
Dude, this is a Zoom world. I do every one of these episodes, 332 episodes now, with no clothes on below a shirt. So you don't want me to stand up. Okay, trust me. Just let me show the shirt and do my thing. Okay, these poor guys. We don't need them to have their breakfast lost this morning. But no, I love it because I would expand it out beyond just the kids' sports cards. Like people are now paying more than $25 for their Christmas cards. Seriously, Christmas cards, right? Like where it's special picture with Santa Claus. I got friends that have to book their Santa Claus pictures in April. Yep. This way, these fancy pictures of the Winter Wonderland come out, and with their.
100%.
I mean, most of them only have one kid, but you understand what I'm saying, right? So I would love it. Look, my grandfather was really good with his hands. He was a super in a building in Central Park South, right? And he was great. He used to make ornaments for us, like wood carve and the whole 9 yards, or And every year we'd get a Christmas ornament for our Christmas tree, and we'd hang them up. And he made it. And when he passed, my grandmother tried to keep that tradition going and would try to give all 4 of the grandkids like something of his as an ornament. You know what I mean? So think about like if she knew about your thing, or if the family knew about your thing, instead, we could put something that he made, split it up, something that he painted, he was an artist, and make a piece of it into a card. And that could be your Christmas thing. That could be a gift for the grandkids every year. At $25, it's like a bargain. Forget about it. You know what I mean? So there's a million different ways to take what you're doing. I love it because, especially somebody like me, I love cards. But, I mean, it's just a cool way of keeping people engaged. Like Eric said, that love of the hobby, love of the cards, and, just to be able to share things, unique things.
There's going to be one kid, probably one kid in the near future that is going to send their jersey or their logo man. And there's going to be a one-of-one logo man autograph. And he does, so Omar, we do both horizontal and vertical. It's not just horizontal. There's horizontal and vertical cards done. So there's probably going to be a superstar with his RPA, if you will, his rookie patch auto logo man that's going to be out there. It's going to be made in the next couple of years for that kid,
Yeah. This is wishful thinking, but I hope this comes for real, like Phil. But I hope in 10 to 15 years from now, a child or someone comes up to me and is like, hey, that card you made of me back then is a big influence. This is why I'm a Major League Baseball player. It's like, again, wishful thinking, or I'm in the NBA because of your card, right? It's like, it just inspired me, motivated me. Like that's
real.
that'd be awesome to like have that come back. Like someone come back to you like after that so long, and like because such a little thing can make such a big difference, right? That's my dream for the company. Like, and that's what I want to achieve in the future as well too.
I love it, man. Dreams are a good thing to have. You'll achieve it. I mean, one day somebody's gonna come to me and they're gonna tell me they won a professional eating competition because of me. I was the reason behind that. It's we all have to have our dreams, but no, I mean, in all seriousness, that would be amazing, and I'm sure it's gonna happen too. Because, I mean, my LCS, there are little cards up of the sons and daughters of the people who buy cards. They go to Little League and they make these. But what's funny is it's legit the same exact Little League baseball card that they've been making since I was in Little League. Like, I still have my brother's, with the same white border from 30, 40 years ago, and he's got the bat over his shoulder, and it says in very, like I could type it out on my brother P-Touch, what this label looks like on it and the whole deal, right? And they're still making the same exact, like, blurry picture. Maybe they've added in a little bit of difference. Like, I saw one with, like, the wood grain, the 87 tops hanging on the wall, too, and I was like, all right, at least they're mixing it up a little bit, like the lasers, when they added the lasers in the school pictures, in the 80s and early 90s, but yours is legit, man. So, I mean, I love it. So, yeah, I mean, I mean, if I'm allowed to speak frankly, you got a lot of heartstrings here. You're pulling on the heartstrings. The only thing people will spend more money on than with their kids is their animals. That's what I've learned. People love their dogs more than their kids. So maybe that's the next thing. Maybe you should make some exquisite style autos for their pets, because trust me, their favorite chew toy, forget about it, man. People love their dogs.
So my first order from United States was actually, he sent me his dog's dog tag, and we did a card with his dog on it. So,
telling you, I know, man. People spend money on their dogs.
You'd be surprised to the inquiries and requests I get. Like, some of them are just like, wow, like, where did you come up with this idea? Let's do it. Like, this is amazing.
All right, so they used to say for the National Enquirer, inquiring minds want to know. Luca Nation wants to know. Do not betray the confidence and trust of any of your people, and without telling us, give us that crazy one. Tell us one crazy one. Give us an example. Tell us one crazy thing you had to make. And keep it like PG, because I'm sure you get some, I mean, you're working with Eric. I'm sure you get some crazy requests.
Okay, so a crazy one. So I have to keep it PG, correct? There was one individual who wanted boxing gloves, like the wrapping, like the street fighting, but he wanted some. Well, this is not PG. I'm sorry, but he wanted like fake blood on it.
Okay. Yeah,
right?
that's cool.
So and then I think like there was one really cool one. Like, this one really got to me.
It's the ultimate flex. He pulls it out of his pocket and he's like, "Do you want this to happen to you?" And he puts it back in.
Yeah, I guess so.
Topps actually made those tail of the tape cards, and tail of the tape auto was actually the fighter tape from under the MMA gloves. They actually put the tape in the cards. Some of them signed. Pretty cool stuff. Had a Randy Couture one back in the day. Next,
really?
What else, Omar?
One was really cool. They had just recently a coach. He was just diagnosed with cancer, and they was just like, "Hey, can you just pump out a card for me? Can we make this happen within 48 hours?" I think they're in Perth in Australia, on the other side of the country. I was like, "Yeah, let's get it going." And for them, like, it was just, I think it was just really cool to just have them call me and be like, "Hey, can you do this for us? It's a going away gift. This is his last season. Unfortunately, he won't be with us." It's not odd or weird, but I thought that was really cool when they called me up to have me do it. I thought that was just like, be part of that. That was really cool.
I love it. So Luca Nation, go to One of One MC on Instagram. The website is One of One MC. You'll take a look. I mean, much of our audience, I mean, we know this, Cage. Father, son, Drake is just one example. So many parents in the hobby. So I know there's a huge audience for this. Eric, Omar, any final words before we wrap this up? We're going on about an hour 20 here. I know this is a super valuable episode. Any final words? What's the roadmap of 101 looking? Are you guys adding more designs? Any final words before we kind of wrap here?
Yeah, so every 6 months we're always coming up with new designs, reinventing what's coming out, what's going to be new and fresh. Always trying to be creative. Also, we're coming up with a design program as well too, where you can sit down with your child or yourself and design a card, and you can upload the memorabilia material that you want to pick or include in the card. Or if you're going to mail one to us, you can take a picture and the memorabilia material will come up on the card digitally. So you'll see more or less the finished product, and then we'll make everything for you as well too. There's a couple of long-term, there's a lot of things down in the pipe, but those will come slowly. They're still working on them. They're brand new. So they're just, right now it's just getting the quality. The quality is there, but there's always improvement to be done. And then our service, there's always improvement for service as well too.
If we could support, post on our Instagram, do anything like that, give out a code called Luca Nation or anything for our customers, we're super happy to support. We support businesses we believe in, and we'd like helping, new businesses grow, especially with a business like yours that fills a huge need and tugs at the heartstrings as well. Eric, I know you moved to South Korea, but we still love you here in the States. You have a huge fan base here. You have a huge fan base. Gone but never forgotten.
Awesome. Thank you. As always, thank you for having me back. I greatly appreciate all that y'all do for the industry and that you've done for me. If I had to leave on just one note, just, be kind, treat each other with respect when you're making transactions. If you happen to do somebody wrong or something throughout the industry, own your mistakes, try to make an amends whenever possible, and just always look out for the next guy. Put somebody else's feelings, if at all possible, put them in front of your own, just try to be.
He's seen you bullying me on recent episodes.
I bully everybody. Here's what I want to know from Eric. We'll have him back on, and definitely we're going to have Omar make some cards for us for Luca Nation. We'll get some tiger stripe, we'll get some borders and stuff like that. But Eric, here's what I want to know. Ultimately, I'm going to have you back in a couple months. I want to know how you react going from Texas barbecue, like legit Texas barbecue, like the brisket, the ribs, the dry rub, the sauces, going to like spam and eggs in Hawaii, you're Haole, so I'm gonna give you a little fun with the native, right? Are you gonna go full kimchi, bulgogi? You gonna go slices of like pork belly? You gonna go full on? This is what I care about. You move different places. I care about the food, man. But is there a Chick-fil-A in South Korea? That would be the first question I would ask before I moved.
Already asked. No, but they do have. I've already eaten that. They do have a Texas Roadhouse. Been there like 4 times.
Yeah.
On military base. We got a Texas Roadhouse. I've eaten Texas Roadhouse. I was there for lunch. I actually was there for lunch today, so I've been at Texas Roadhouse. But I am probably the next couple of weeks. I'm going to be in Seoul. I'm going to post some videos on Instagram going through Seoul. And if I can find some LCSs there in Seoul, I want to just bring them there. I'm probably going to take around, I'll pick one Kobe auto that's graded right. Something probably with a mark that's like a paint pen or something.
The Kobe auto Eric's talking about is a flawless, first edition flawless PSA 10.
No,
I'm just going to take a flawless Kobe auto around.
I'll take a chronology. I'll take a chronology, like a mint chronology, something like 30 grand, 40 grand. I'll take that, and I'm going to start traveling the world with that little Kobe auto and start taking pictures of it. Pictures of it in like Cambodia, Seoul, Pyeongtaek, wherever, China, whatever. That's my thing. Thank you for having us, by the way. Thank you for supporting us.
Of course,
it's our pleasure. Thank you, guys.
Omar, it's nice to meet you. Eric, thanks, man. You bring great stuff to the show every single time, man. Just real great insight. Go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, I love you guys. I love what you guys are doing. It's great. I've been watching it religiously. It's awesome. Amazing stuff, guys.
Take 1 minute and 10 seconds to watch Eric's favorite speech. It won't disappoint. It's just put into YouTube. Gehrig delivers his famous speech at Yankee Stadium. Worth it. 1 minute, 10 seconds on YouTube. By Luca Nation.
Before they yank it off YouTube as an NFT.